Hi, I am Tavish Cardiff here with
Quan Tracy Cherry.
And we are representing Ourrawmaterial for Food Week. Week 3, question for our week is...
What's the most nourishing thing that you've done for yourself today? Please, in the comment section, either through YouTube, Ourrawmaterial, Instagram, Ourrawmaterial, or our website, www.ourrawmaterial.com.
We'll be right back. Hi, I am Tavish, this is Quan, and it is Food Week. So, what's the most important thing that we want people to know about Food Week?
The physical aspect of food, as well as the emotional aspect, how we nourish ourselves, and how there's just so many different attitudes around it, so many different...
Key on nourishment.
Yeah, and we say food, and we do go to what we put in our bodies, but it's also what we put in our hearts as well. How we share ourselves around food.
What our mentors have put there.
Oh.
What music has put there. This is taking those first 2 weeks, mentors in music, and figuring out the mental construct that we kind of operate under. So first question really being, have your basic needs always been met? And that's a really important one, because if they haven't, there's pockets of shame. There's pockets of this feeling of not being good enough that exists within the body that we hold, even if that only happened in short moments.
And it's interesting, we immediately go to childhood around that. There can be any number of places where you can get shamed later in life.
Any age.
Around
look
food.
Look at the homeless population right here in Kansas City. It's not age specific. It's not gender specific. It's not race, religion specific. And just talking about that population, you're dealing with people who are undernourished in one way or another. So Food Week is really about those types of people at the base, and then in the cool ego parts, what are the neat things about food that's unique to us? What's our favorites? What's our family like? So many families have different traditions around food. I know that culturally there are a lot of things, like specifically maybe I'm going to put you on the spot, but potato salad.
Yes.
Can you give me the rundown?
Well, potato salad, at least for me, it has to have, it's mustard based, and if there's no paprika on top of it, I mean, there's a certain, and you can have eggs or not, but those are optional.
Do we lean more to the yes or the no on that?
I lean more toward, it just depends on who's making it.
Okay.
But
I like it with the eggs.
But no, it doesn't have to be. But paprika and mustard, yes. And I even like celery seed. I mean, there's some other little tweaks.
I like the celery. My mother has her own specific potato salad recipe, but that's one of those things that shows up on most tables.
And no raisins.
Most seasons. What? I'm
people
confused.
Just. It is a joke, but if you see potato salad with raisins in it, or coleslaw with raisins in it, you can pretty much. White people probably have made it.
I've seen coleslaw that way, like a carrot raisin something.
Oh, okay. Maybe I got it mixed up.
But definitely not. I've never seen a potato salad.
Well, I mix my salads.
But it could happen.
Yes,
I don't know. People do weird things,
Uh-huh.
and that's the point. We all have our own. It has to have these ingredients. It has to be, the potatoes have to be cooked this way, or it has to be this kind. There are just certain things that across the board we all have traditions and opinions on how they should be.
Yeah, like for instance, we are recording this a week earlier, New Year's Eve, and I will be making some black-eyed peas. Either I put the greens in the black-eyed peas or make 2 separate dishes, because prosperity, greens, black-eyed peas is just a part of New Year's tradition around food.
Black-eyed peas, I really like to have it New Year's too. And it's one of those traditions. I mean, I wonder how far-reaching that one is, because most people that I know hold that black-eyed pea tradition, kind of like corned beef on St. Patrick's Day, even if you're not Irish. So we do a lot of mixing cultures with food. we allow a lot more spaces with food, just like we allow emotion with music.
Yep, I would agree.
We allow cultural adaptation with food. And I've talked about this many times. I'd be in a lot of trouble if Mexican food ever became like not okay for white people to make and eat, because it's ingrained in me. My palate is just very Mexican, even though there's not a Mexican.
Do you ever make a good mole, or do you go that deep? Or
I don't make mole regularly. I have, and it turned out fine, but I followed a recipe. But there are several things within that genre that I'll just put together all on my own. I already know something about it, or I've learned something about it, and so that's where I like to experiment. We each kind of gravitate towards different types of food that generally come from our parents, or the people that we grew up around, or an aversion to what they did. My sister-in-law never thought she liked chicken. Her mother made really dry chicken. And so it wasn't until she was out of the house and she tried some other chicken that she decided, oh wow, I really do like chicken. So if you grew up in a house where something wasn't prepared in a way that is palatable for you, you might not recognize you like it until later. And our palates change so much.
True, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I used to keep all my food separate on the plate, and
my sister still does.
And when I'm trying new things, I may try a little bit of it. Like I did this as a child. I used to eat French dressing and ranch dressing or blue cheese, and I kept it on different parts of the salad. And then eventually, I let go of the French. No apologies to La Francais folk, and went more toward blue cheese. Well, that's still French, isn't it?
Every salad?
Not every. No, I'm Caesar. Oh, yeah, no. Now it's... Yeah, it's a mood thing now. And what's in the refrigerator, too.
And I try to think back to, like, my children. I've got one that doesn't like condiments at all, so no dressing.
Okay.
But I believe what was available in their childhoods were ranch and Italian. Out of a bottle. I wasn't making salad dressings then. And these kids will make their own salad dressing now because they'll use some ranch too.
Yeah.
We get stuck in these different ways of being, and we either stay with tradition or we're more ready to branch out. And these things tell us a lot about who and how we are and how we operate in the world. We can also look to the people that we know and see how they handle food and see how it ties to just mentally how they're constructed. Food and nourishment help put together our ideas about who we are.
And it goes like it's to a mental week, which goes into our values and ideals, and then how we align with intention, particularly if we're looking at building better bonds within our family. Then we create meals that we're eating together, and ideally, everyone would say what they wanted or didn't want, and they would have their ideal meal in front of them. But since it's a mental week, it's really about investigating what was imprinted, what we got from the mentors, and being able to see the roots of that, so we can be more conscious. How do you?
I see it multi-level.
Okay.
I mean, there's any number of ways to go with it. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
And yes. And yes.
Yes. Okay. But just knowing that sometimes just by investigating, you with this open mind, because again we're geared toward wholeness. So no judgment allowed. If you don't tend to like to try new things, well, small doses, baby steps. But find out why you maybe have fear around trying new food.
I'll go back to the conversation you were having about ideally being able to everyone have what they want and have input and say what they want. Meal planning together as a family would be pretty cool. When my kids were little, I let them pick out which vegetables we were having.
But they were going to have vegetables, but they got to choose. That way to give agency.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, pick out which ones we're going to have. Pick out which protein we're going to have. And when they got to do that, it was never a question of, do I have to eat it? It was, which one am I going to eat? And that really worked for a long time. It also made it really obvious when there was something that they truly didn't like, because the reaction was like, well, what is that? They were expecting to like it. Now, everybody changed when they were in their teenage years, but when they were younger, before any imprinting, they were willing to try anything. And vegetables in the morning. I would prep all the food in the morning, so that's what was available when they came in and were hungry. And so if they wanted to snack on something, it was raw vegetables. So they just got used to it.
That's all right. That's kick ass.
When you think about farming communities and really that, butcher block table and the hearth in the home and being called into dinner when it's ready and everything straight from the harvest and canning and really having to use your land and what's available and what you've grown, those types of traditions, we try to even carry into our marketing now. We try to make people feel like it's coming straight from a farm to them. And if we have the means right now, we're figuring out ways to buy things from local farms, from locally sourced places, to go back to supporting local in ways that we spent the last 40 years tearing all of that down to mass produce things. So we're really working to find that balance between capitalism and letting everybody make all the money that they desire to make, but also taking care of the land, taking care of ourselves. And those two things are incongruent often. They don't come together. So Food Week is really about that balance and seeing where we can go into our ego with so many of these things that help build us up and help us feel good, nourish us, comfort us when we are sick. I mean, sick food. Everybody has their idea of what sick food is, right?
Yeah, what you're going to eat or drink, when you are not feeling well, whether that's the chicken soup or the Vietnamese soup from down the street or whatever, but soup.
When you were a little kid, what was the go-to sick food?
Either vegetable soup, and I can still remember that, there would be, canned corn that would go into the soup,
Interesting.
But vegetable soup mostly.
My family, I don't even know what was wrong with us, but Campbell's bean with bacon. I don't know why anyone would ever have this stuff. My sister and I still will crave it when we're sick. I haven't been sick in a lot of years.
So no Campbell's vegetable beef?
No.
Oh, well, no.
I mean, I've probably had it, but sick food was bean with bacon.
Even tomato soup, I was able, because I love tomatoes.
I do love tomato soup.
So that was there too. And French onion. Yeah, I remember I was the weird child at 6 or 7 ordering French onion soup. So,
I always love French onion. Bread.
Yes.
As long as you eat it really quickly and the bread doesn't get too soggy.
And the cheese is not too thick.
And the cheese
it can be thick, but if it's... Well, anyway.
You got to be able to cut it with a spoon.
Yes.
You got to be... Whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
With French onion soup. But yes, amazing. Yeah. Layers and layers and levels of reasons to like that. But we attach to food in that way. And it does bring us back to so many memories and so many places in our lives where things went well for us or didn't. I mean, how many meals did our generation have to sit through where we didn't want to eat something and we're forced to sit at our table and clean our plate because people were starving somewhere?
Yeah. Well, see, that wasn't. I ate. So that was, yeah. But I understand that sentiment. I've seen it.
My brother and sister had a moment. My dad brought this up over the Christmas holiday, where he forced them to eat sauerkraut. And I remember leaving the table. I liked sauerkraut, still do.
Yeah.
Craved it while I was pregnant, even. Strange. All 3 times. But I left the table, and the kids were sitting there supposed to eat their sauerkraut. I came back from my waitressing shift, and they're still sitting at the table. And I think the food went into the refrigerator, and they were threatened to have to eat it for breakfast. No one made them. And I think that was an off-take on that Mommy Dearest Joan Crawford. And I think when we drew attention to that, they gave up.
No one made
them eat sauerkraut.
I think to make someone eat sauerkraut, that's...
And my dad has a memory of being forced to eat liver and throwing up straight onto the plate. So he didn't really force us to eat a lot, just that one time. And I think it was they wouldn't even try it.
Ah, okay.
Not even one bite.
So that speaks to whether or not, do you stick with what you know?
That speaks to stubbornness. I don't, so many times we get at odds with what we tell our kids they have to do, and so many things about that. Mealtimes. Manners come into play at mealtimes. Customs. What's acceptable or not acceptable. And then what's acceptable in your home, you go to someone else's house, totally different customs, and you might be looked at as rude.
Like, some have the basket that you put your cell phones in. So if you're eating at the table,
I do like that.
You're not on the cell phone, which, I get. Those smartphones can be interfering at times.
Well, we protect meal times by doing that. And especially right now, where right now, we probably are getting to do a lot more family meals. But pre-pandemic, we had kind of gotten to a place where we were lucky. We felt grateful if we got to pull the family together. It wasn't expected to hit every meal together. When kids are playing sports, activities, all kinds of things going on. But I did meet a woman who told me that she, even while her kids were playing sports, they always ate dinner together, even if it was at 10 o'clock at night.
So much for the intermittent fasting. Huh?
I was kind of amazed at that.
Yeah.
That's one of those things you throw in. Intermittent fasting.
Okay.
I'm sure it helps lose weight or whatever it's intended to do. But when you think about adding intermittent fasting to something like emotional nutrition.
Oh, no.
When you think about adding that to our spiritual nutrition, all you're doing is coming in and out. And I realize it's different than the physical in the body. But when we look at what we're giving and what we're not giving, what we're offering and what we're taking away, what we're restricting, we might just see our bodies a little differently. We might see the ability to shift ourselves within our own psyches, within our own breath, over needing to follow the newest and latest fad diet, which, are always backed by science for a little while, and then they fall off while science is backing the next newest thing. I recall a diet that my grandmother was on in the 70s where they were saying that you should have all carbs. All carbs.
Good luck with that today.
All pasta and vegetables. And backed by science. This was the way to lose weight. But we had different bodies then too. They were super skinny, but they were different sized. They were different. The skin was different. That everything was different because we were filling them with carbs. We create these different ways with how we do our diets.
I just also know how I remember being in Canada, and also one time I was in Europe. There were ads or products around big Americans. Larger portion sizes, larger. We're seen as kind of large people.
We quit doing that too.
Yeah.
We used to supersize everything.
Yes.
Make it all as big as you can make it, and that's not what we're rushing to do anymore. But we're also looking at overall health versus size. We're also not trying to fit everybody into the same box anymore.
Or the same cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is acceptable, what is beautiful, what is authentic has now become what appears healthy from the inside out. And I think we're getting more and more and more into recognizing nourishment that way, recognizing robust, healthy-looking energy versus looking at a thin person and deciding, they're healthy.
And then someone who might be overweight, that's not healthy. Yeah.
But that could be a person with an eating disorder. That could be a person struggling to get enough nutrition. There are so many things that we've done to ourselves to force a look when health is really how we feel.
Yes.
Anything else to add?
No, just eat when you can have as much joy connected to it as possible, for sure. That's all I got. Yeah.
Get enough water.
Definitely.
Breathe.
Yes.
And put the food into your body that you know your body will appreciate. Offer it a treat every once in a while.
And this just came to me. You can even, it's not so much that you're praying over your food as you can just intend what you want the food to do for you, which is just wanting to have this vital energy process well in a way that benefits you, body and soul.
Our ideal health comes from our mental construct.
Yeah, I would agree.
How we hold it, how we see it, and how we treat ourselves. So pay attention to how you nourish.
Yep, and what have you done to nourish yourself today?
Yeah, it's a great question. We'll see you next week for Ignorance Week.
Thank you. Namaste.